Hello and welcome to The World Now. We begin in Niger Republic, where thousands of coup supporters Friday rallied near a French military base in Niger, a day after West African leaders said they would muster a standby force in their efforts to reinstate the country's deposed leader. Fears also mounted for elected President Bazoum, who was ousted by members of his guard, with reports saying his detention conditions were deteriorating. Protesters near the base on the outskirts of the capital, Niamey, shouted "Down with France, down with ECOWAS," a reference to the West African bloc, which on Thursday approved the deployment of a standby force to restore constitutional order. Many brandished Russian and Niger flags and yelled their support for the country's new strongman, General Abdurrahman Tiani. Former colonial power France has around 1,500 personnel in Niger as part of a force battling an 8-year-old jihadist insurgency. It is facing growing hostility across the Sahel, withdrawing its anti-jihadist forces from neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso last year after falling out with military governments that ousted elected leaders. The European Union and African Union joined others in sounding the alarm for President Bazoum on Friday. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said President Bazoum's reported detention conditions could amount to inhuman and degrading treatment in violation of international human rights law. The AU also echoed concerns, saying such treatment of a democratically elected president was unacceptable. And for more on the military takeover in Niger, Professor Bright Aregebe Arex joins me on The World Now from California. He is a space rocker, scientist, and president of the Africa Policy and Strategic Development Institute. It's good to have you on, Mr. Arex.
Thank you very much.
Now, as we speak, the deployment of ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in Niger is one of the options on the table. What's your take on that?
Well, who makes the decision? The situation here is who is making the decision. ECOWAS believe is making the decision, asking the junta to reinstate the deposed, or rather, the former civilian president. I think the statement is too spoken in haste because there has to have been a crack in the system for the military to try to take over.
Now, Mr.
So to tell them to take a step backward is deadly. It's deadlier than the dictate itself. Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Shiani has refused to see delegations from the AU, UN, and the US, amongst others. What do you think should be the best approach in making the coup leaders listen, apart from the use of force?
The use of force in the first place should never have pronounced. And the group you have just mentioned, the UN, the African Union, the ECOWAS, these are organizations, and two of them, of course, Niger is a part of them. And what we are trying to do there, I shouldn't say we are, what they are trying to do there is unreasonable. In other words, the move to force the junta to take some steps back is like telling them, turn the gun on yourself and kill yourself. How many people would you, with ECOWAS, want to kill in place of office? They have not articulated the office itself. Because if there was no problem, there wouldn't be the military coming to take over. And most importantly, we live in a world that organizations function. I have never heard where an organization turned gun on itself. I think they start by forces that ECOWAS have is probably to defend any member country that is being invaded or an external hostility coming to them. ECOWAS defend them. It should have been attack on one of ECOWAS membership is attack on ECOWAS. I think that is the purpose of the military for the external aggression. And not internal aggression. Even if there is an internal aggression, there shouldn't be a time. I cannot say that the pronouncement that give the directive for the junta to go ahead and reinstate the deposed leader or the arrested leader, whatever way you want to call it, is wrong. I'm not going to say that it was a gut-feeling decision. Decisions should be based on statistics. And when you look at the statistics of the entire continent, most particularly the West Africa, you found that we have spilled too many blood. The Boko Haram is out there killing. The Iswa, whatever you call them, are out there killing. People are just dying. And you want to raise forces to attack your own self? I don't think that is quite, I would approach it differently. And probably if it was approached differently and in quietness, probably the guy could have been there now. Who is he there for in the first place? You saw in the stadium millions of people gathered supporting the military. I don't think we have seen anybody on the street calling the military to get out of the office. I think we live in this world in some years ago when in Russia, there was a coup, some kind of, but we wouldn't call it a coup, and the civilian marched straight to the guns, and the military went back. We know what is going on in the world now. Now, Bibola, let me ask you a question. What is the difference between the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and ECOWAS? Can you tell me the difference?
All right.
There is no difference. There is no difference. It's an organization of nations set to assist themselves economically, politically, and defend themselves in cases of an external aggression. That's what ECOWAS should be doing, not turning gun on itself. Let me tell you, if there is any mistake that they actually go in militarily to restore an individual that we do not know its functions, because most people will tell you its functions have failed, do not know its functions or even know too much of its functions, and then kill all the generals that hosted him. So what benefit would that be to either ECOWAS? I think this conversation that we have here is basically to assist France, if I may say that, or the external, the foreign nations that are there. In this world as a whole, we do deals. We work with each other across the
next story.
We deal with each other across the continent, across the world. If I have something that you want, you come through the front door to me, my business, and you negotiate with me. Yes.
Sorry to interject there. One final question for you before I let you go. I understand that your association came up with some recommendations in an open letter written to the ECOWAS as to how this crisis, in the Niger Republic can be resolved. Would you like to share one or two of such recommendations with us?
Yes. We are recommending to ECOWAS to approach this situation politically and not militarily. we are saying to ECOWAS that the decision shouldn't have been made the way it was made. And we respect ECOWAS and the ECOWAS leadership, but to approach this situation diplomatically. That's what we are saying. It's a long letter. It has gone to all the head of state that formed the ECOWAS, 50 of them, including the ECOWAS leadership. And we are saying that we are tired of blood flowing everywhere, that we shouldn't be part of causing the flow of the blood, that we should approach our situation amicably. And we should also be able to find what necessitates the ouster of the leader and try to fix the situation, either for him to come back. But remember, this is a coup without blood. Why do you want to share blood after the coup? Does that make sense?
Professor Brightory, I may have to interject. I'm afraid I have to end it there. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. That was Professor Bright Aregegbe Arex. That's the president of the Africa Policy and Strategic Development Institute, sharing his thoughts with us on the situation in Niger Republic.